This is TWiT.
You have the ThinkPad X13 S. S means super?
Snapdragon.
Snapdragon. So you got Windows on ARM.
Latest, yeah. This has been a really weird year for laptop reviews. I've had so many devices in my house, and it's really just bogged me down a bunch. But one of the things I do is I move back and forth between different machines at the same time. Not all 12 of them or whatever, but the newest 2 or 3 or whatever. And this one I was particularly interested in because of all the obvious reasons, right? We think this might be the future. What does this thing look like? And I'll just say, hitting on the positives.
It's a ThinkPad.
Well, of the platform itself.
Yeah.
It is, by the way, the first Windows on ARM ThinkPad. The software platform that Microsoft creates, right, Windows on ARM, Windows 11 on ARM, has gotten better, right? X64 emulation now. There's also a technology that will allow developers to mix and match ARM and x86 code in the same project. The idea there is that they don't have to do a total rewrite of an app. Right. They can start putting ARM bits into it. Smart. I have no idea if anyone is even using it. I've never seen one report of anyone using that technology, but they've done what they can do, I think, on the software end, right, to make this better. Qualcomm, likewise, has done a reasonable job, although we're hoping for a much bigger advance soon with the Nuvia-based stuff of improving the hardware. Although, as I've seen and as I've often predicted, if you bulk this thing up enough so that it's powerful enough to run like a Core i5, you're going to give up battery life. And boy, do they give up battery life. The basics are okay. I just mentioned this mythical Microsoft person. If you're that person and you run Microsoft Edge, which is native on this platform, if you just use Office, which is half native, half emulated, I would imagine, probably not even half, but some combination, and that's kind of what you do, and you don't run a lot of browser tabs, it's okay. It's okay. It's in that situation, it's probably like having a kind of a basic Core i5. This particular PC has 16 to 32 gigs of RAM, which I think is telling because it's unnecessary, but on this platform, you kind of really need it because you're going to be running a lot of emulated apps, and a lot of storage. But it just falls apart in everyday use, and with the stuff I do. So I don't know if I'm, different from the norm or whatever, but I run things like Photoshop Elements, which is not native on ARM. By the way, there is a Photoshop that is if you pay for Creative Cloud. I use Affinity Designer, I use Notion, I use Markdown Pad, I use Brave, and they try to do as good as they can. If it presents itself as a 32-bit operating system, so if there's a 32-bit version of an app you're trying to download, like Brave or Chrome, I think as well, it will give you that version because that version runs better. And x64 compatibility is slower than x86, but at least it runs. We always talk about that with ARM. Like at least it runs. Or running slow is better than not running. The problem is a lot of tabs, a lot of apps open, a lot of performance problems. Like it really, really bogs down. And this machine is expensive. These things always are expensive. I could be wrong, but I think the lowest non-sale price for a base unit of this thing, which doesn't have enough RAM, is $1,400. $150 more to get 16 gigs of RAM, I think would do it. It's a lot of money. And when you're talking $1,000 to $1,500, you have an incredible range of computers that all will perform better, will be more compatible, will run whatever special utilities for, printers and scanners and things like that you can't get on ARM.
Will it get better once there's less emulation and more native code? I mean, that's certainly going to happen.
I would say I would have worded that if we get more native.
Oh, you don't think that'll happen?
Microsoft has done a decent job of taking what's in Windows and making more and more of it native to ARM, right? So we've seen that over time. App like OneNote comes up one day and it's available on ARM. By the way, when I was reviewing this laptop, there was no Xbox app on ARM. You couldn't even get it. And that's how you access things like Xbox Cloud Gaming and Xbox PC Game Pass. So that actually just came out recently, so that's available. I think Microsoft might have made a special version only for the Surface Pro X or whatever, but now it is broadly available. So actually, you can use that at least. But I think these little compatibility things, bad.
See, that's really disappointing.
I want to know. Yeah.
Well, 6-ish hours. I think it was off the top of my head. I think it was 6.5, somewhere in there.
Yep.
You got it, but you have to. If you go to their website, they're talking about 28 hours of battery life, right?
Of course, they all do. They all do. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So that's obviously like a video loop kind of a test, local video, screen set on 50% kind of deal. So that's cute. But I actually just use the computer, and this is the kind of battery life I already get from Intel and AMD computers, and sometimes better than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, so this thing is killing itself emulating. Right. So the point is maybe this is the future, right? There are no fans in this computer. I saw the same issue you see with like the recent MacBook Air that's fanless, where if you have a lot of stuff going on, the thing heats up, you can feel it, and it throttles.
Heats up and slows down.
Performance,
right?
Yeah, which already wasn't great, is now slower.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's better than it's ever been. There's no doubt about it. No, I mean, that's true. And then if that was the end of the sentence, that'd be a nice story. But unfortunately,
still not good enough.
Performance is not.
Yeah, still not good enough.
Not great.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to stick with my M1 and M2 Max, I think, for the time being.
And that's actually, I should have actually mentioned that. The final irony, the final kick in the butt here is if you do run Windows on ARM on a Mac, an M1 or M2 Mac, it runs better than it does on a real Windows PC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you use the emulators like VirtualBox or Parallels, Yep.
That's tough.
In fact, people are saying it runs quite well.
No, it runs great. It runs great.
Yep.
And the reason that's important is because most people aren't doing that to run a Windows machine. They're doing it to run an app.
One app. Yeah, just that app that I need.
If that gets it done, great.
I have to say the impetus for me to use Windows has really diminished because of the really high compatibility of games on Linux. I'm able to run all of these Windows, so-called Windows-only games, run very well on Linux and emulation. And
there's another. So I'm not sure that's a mainstream. Well, no, I guess it is. I mean,
that's one of the main things people get Windows for is gaming, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. So. The other thing that's changed that I think will impact a lot of people is just the availability of, web apps that solve problems that you can run on any platform.
Right.
The big issue with the Mac, 20 years ago, 10 years ago was the apps weren't there, enough of the apps or whatever. And I don't feel like that's as much of a problem anymore, that there are like really key Windows only apps out in the world. I don't think that's the case.
No.
I mean, sure. I mean, obviously it could be the case in certain,
It's much less than it was. Used to be, especially line of business software, used to be a big issue.
Right. But if you're writing line of business software today, you write it for the web and then it works everywhere because everyone has iPhones and iPads and Android devices and whatever. You want it to work everywhere. That's the goal. And it makes Windows less necessary, in those situations.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting. It's interesting. Yeah. On the other hand, Intel has made great progress, and so it may be that don't. Well, I feel like they
have they? Have they? I don't know. No, I mean, and I say this. Like I said, I've got.
I think yes. I'm going to say
laptops
yes.
in preview.
I'm going to say yes, especially with the 13th gen. You're going to see some real battery life improvements.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good asterisk to that one because I feel like the transition to this hybrid core architecture is going to take a couple of generations
12th gen
to smooth out.
Had issues.
12th gen definitely has issues, and I'm shocked I don't see more people talking about that. But it's like Microsoft with Windows 11. Arguably, they're doing the right thing in the sense that they know they have to make this change. It's going to be hard for a little while and not ideal for some customers for a little while, but they have to get through it, and I think they'll end up in a good place. But we'll see. We'll see what market share looks like in a couple of years. I don't know.
I think also Qualcomm's exclusive deals and their kind of dominance is bad for ARM architectures on the PC side because I don't think Qualcomm does very good chips.
Yeah. No, right.
I mean, it seems not.
I have nothing to add to that. I mean, I think a lot of people would say the same thing, and there's evidence to support it.
Yeah. So if you had somebody doing something great, maybe it'd be possible.
Right. Next week, ARM Dev Summit. Maybe we'll see some news.
Okay. Some Nuvia.
Maybe.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, look, generation over generation, this, I think it's like the 8CX Gen 3, whatever that's in this computer, is actually significantly better. And, with x64 emulation and whatever else, it is better. it's, in the past, some of these upgrades, I'm like, I don't really seeing anything here. Like, this is better. So if they're able to do this with what used to be a phone architecture, 7 years later, whatever it's been,
Right.
they're making progress. It's going to be interesting to see if there's a much bigger leap, with the Nuvia-based stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah.
If there isn't, there's no future for this
Right.
platform.
It's kind of a race now, right, between Intel and ARM architectures. Like Intel's getting better, and they're getting more efficient. And,
yeah, but they're not going to be in the places where ARM dominates. They're not going to be in mobile, and one has to wonder if it matters anymore whether Intel does anything. If their only claim to fame is we can run legacy Windows Windows stuff on PCs, you've just inherited the smallest market there is for these types of devices, for personal computing devices.
Mm-hmm. I don't care who solves it, but whoever solves battery life, I'm all in.
they're called
Neither side.
Apple.
Nope. I know. Other than Apple, somebody other than Apple
right.
needs to step up to the plate.
I hate to say this. I think you would really enjoy a MacBook Air.
That new MacBook Air.
Hate.
In midnight blue, baby.
Hate.
Hey, I'm Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief of Vadaster Magazine, and each week I join with my co-host to bring you This Week in Space, the latest and greatest news from the final frontier. We talk to NASA chiefs, space scientists, engineers, educators, and artists, and sometimes we just shoot the breeze over what's hot and what's not in space, books, and TV. And we do it all for you, our fellow true believers. So whether you're an armchair adventurer or waiting for your turn to grab a slot in Elon's Mars rocket, join us on This Week in Space and be part of the greatest adventure of all time.